is you have the temporary pier, which is, of course, several miles offshore, which can receive both military and civilian vessels. There has been no physical construction of the temporary pier or the causeway. We are positioned to begin construction very soon, in the very near future. As you saw over the weekend, Secretary Austin welcomed the passage of the National Security Supplemental by the House of Representatives on Saturday, which will help the Department of Defense support Ukraine and Israel, bolster security in the Indo-Pacific, and stand firm with our allies and partners around the world. In his statement, he highlighted that the bipartisan legislation will allow the department to surge life-saving security assistance to help Ukraine defend itself from Russia's aggression, support Israel's defense from Iran and its proxies, and increase the flow of urgently needed humanitarian aid to suffering Palestinian civilians in Gaza.
When the aid is loaded from Cyprus and it goes to the pier, is it going to be the U.S. military exclusively transporting that aid from Cyprus to the pier, or is it also going to be commercial vessels?
Sure. So as I understand it, capability allows us to do is you have the temporary pier, which is, of course, several miles offshore, which can receive both military and civilian vessels. But then it's transloaded onto the pier, put onto military vessels, logistic support vessels, which are U.S. military. Those are the vessels that will then take the aid to the to the causeway, where it's then loaded onto non-military trucks, driven by NGOs, that will then take the aid off the causeway into an assembly area and then for further distribution throughout Gaza.
So the U.S. military will not be driving those trucks on the causeway?
As I understand, that is correct.
Can you say whether or not the U.S. military has done any construction or any development at all yet, or is it still sort of waiting for the final security aid, et cetera, to get worked out?
So as I understand it, as of right now, there has been no physical construction of the temporary pier or the causeway. As we've discussed, there is for lack of a better term, sort of a checklist that one's going to follow in order to implement this capability. And as Central Command and U.S. Army Central goes through that checklist, we are positioned to begin construction very soon, in the very near future. But you want to do those steps in order so that by the time you are erecting this causeway and temporary pier, that all the pieces are in place and that you can begin operating. So we're still, based on all indications, on track to see an operating capability by the end of this month or early May.
The first link from Cyprus, where it'll be screened before put on the ship, it'll be on U.S. military ships going from, this is the question, will it be on U.S. military ships going from Cyprus to the pier, or there'll be civilian ships as well?
Yeah, again, as I understand it, the pier, the floating temporary pier, will be able to receive both civilian and military vessels that can unload, right? So,
DoD has not received a plan from the Israelis for their evacuation of civilians from Rafa or the military operation that they're going to do, because now there's been some reports like from the AP and others showing that tent cities being built up around Han Yunis, suggesting that they're beginning the evacuation plan.
With the caveat that I'd refer you to the IDF to speak specifically to their operations. I can tell you that coming out of the recent meeting that was hosted by the White House, the U.S. and Israel have agreed on the shared objective to see Hamas defeated in Rafah. They shared their thinking. We've shared ours. But in terms of what their plan looks like, we still have some concerns in terms of the various courses of actions, and so we'll continue to discuss those concerns related to how they're going to take into account civilian safety and humanitarian assistance. No indications at this point that any type of major ground operation has begun, and so again, those conversations will continue to be very important, and it will also continue to be something that we feel is essential, that before any type of operation that they're taking civilian safety and humanitarian consideration.